Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my live special. We're going to continue the narcissism in mothers. So I'm gonna go from where we left off at, and let's keep it going.
It can be painful and traumatizing, not to mention that we were probably emotionally neglected as a result. Which is why today I want to talk about the 8 signs your mom is a narcissist, because knowing can help us better navigate this complicated relationship. If you're new here, hi, my name is Katie Morton and I'm a licensed therapist. My goal is to help you deal with the ways that your past experiences have impacted your current relationships and life. I want to help you better understand your mental health and guide and support you in that process. If you find these videos helpful, make sure to like and subscribe. It really does help us creators. Okay, let's get into those 8 signs.
There we go.
And sign number 1 is that your mother sees you as an extension of her. Meaning, you don't get to do the things that you want. It's more about her having you do the things that she wants or what she maybe wanted to do as a child. I recently read this book called, I think it's I'm Glad My Mom Died. And in it, this woman, she's an actress. She was in iCarly for many years, but she talks about the fact that even being an actress wasn't something that she wanted for herself. It was actually something that her mom had wanted and didn't get to do as a child. Therefore, she tried to live vicariously through her child by forcing her to be a child star and a child actor and making her do all these certain things so that she would be more appealing and would get roles. And that's kind of what this sign is. It's like a parent trying to make their child play a certain sport, do a certain thing, act in a certain way because that's what they want, not what the child wants. A narcissistic parent is never going to ask their child, hey, do you like...
Yes, this happens a lot. There's a lot of parents out there that want to live through their children instead of watching and allowing their children to grow and be who they're supposed to be.
I have familial expectations of Tristan's duties. He has familial duties, but he can still go. I want him to go and do the things that he wants to do, to travel and to go and work at Nintendo and to do the things that he says that he wants to do, and we've worked toward that for years.
Exactly.
But I still do have some expectations. It's like I said, it's like he doesn't have to come back to manage this place, but he needs to find somebody to do it if he's not going to, So
exactly. To take over certain duties and everything else, yes.
But that's for later on down the road after he's already done a lot of the things that he's going to do.
Yeah, we want him to go off and experience life for what he can and for what he wants to do to begin with.
Do you feel good when you do it? Do you want to keep doing it? They're just going to decide for you. Sign number 2 is that she can dish out tons of criticism, but can't take any of it herself. And I think the way to kind of understand this...
That is a big one, and I know especially with your mother, Donna Robotin, a lot of them will criticize, will grind you as a person down. But yeah, you say something to them, and it's like, how dare you?
It's like, it's not true. That's not, that isn't.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't act like that, even if it's in a joke. You can't even joke.
No, you can't even joke. Because they will take that stuff seriously, because deep down they know the truth. But they won't admit it.
Is to understand narcissistic personality disorder, or NPD. Now, someone with NPD puts on this fake facade. I like to think of it like a Fabergé egg. They're very pretty. They're very decorated. People like them. They can be very charismatic. They put up a good front. However, for those of us on the inside, their children, we see them fall apart. We see them lash out because once that facade is down or once that facade is in danger, meaning someone kind of points out hey, maybe you could have done it this way, that facade falls and they it's like rage. And it's really because, not that I'm not condoning their behavior at all, but the reason this happens is because that fake facade helps someone with NPD feel okay and not so under threat all the time, because it's usually not 100%, but usually it's born out of trauma. So they can be very critical of others, but if you at all try to scratch that surface, they can't handle it. Moving on to sign number 3 is that she shares private information about you with others without your permission. Especially when doing so would give her something
That is another big one for you. All the time.
Just like I only had one other person that I would tell things to, or talk to about things, and I only ever talked to just my mother. And then somehow this other person was coming back and telling me things that I'd only told my mother. And it's like, how the hell did you know? It's like, oh well, I heard it. And I'm like, well, you could have only heard it from one person.
Exactly.
You know, so she was the only mutual friend, and yeah, always.
Always.
Exciting or intriguing to talk about, like makes her look good. And I've heard from a ton of you, and also even in that book that I read, I've heard people talk about how their mothers will share like when they started their period, their first boyfriend or girlfriend, or something embarrassing that they caught you doing that is perfectly normal and natural when it comes to development. But when we're going through it, we don't want other people knowing.
Yes.
It'd be like akin to, I don't know, having a wet dream as a young boy, or getting your first bra or your period as a girl, and you get home and your mom is sitting around with a bunch of her friends and she's telling them about that. Mortifying, and also without your permission, and a complete overstep of boundaries. There's no care or concern for you or what that could mean to you. None of that. It gives them something to talk about. Or it could even be to show how good of a parent they are, right? Oh, they took you and they did this thing. It's all to boost them up, to make them look good. And so they'll share it as a way of like, yeah, but I talked to them and I handled it and went to the store, and it's about them. And so they're sharing your personal information as a way to make themselves look good, and it can feel really bad. Sign number 4 is that she holds basic parental duties over your head. Saying things like, do you know how much I gave up for you? Or to think of all the dirty diapers I changed when you were a baby. Yeah. And this list can go on and on and on. And they use things that they did that, again, basic parental duties. Yeah. They're the one that decided to have the child. Children, when they're really little, need a lot of things, right? They call it like the 4th trimester, that first period when you're first born, because you can't fend for yourself at all. It's actually a lot longer before you can fend for yourself. But a narcissistic mother will hold this over your head as if them doing those things means that you are forever indebted. That you have to do everything that they say because they did these basic.
Telling my mother, she used to do this too. She's like, do you know how long I was in labor with you? Do you know how long I suffered with you? You know,
yes.
You know, it's like it was started with her. And then, yeah, I mean, they act like the very basic thing is just some great huge sacrifice.
Very much so. I mean, they act like they have to have something big so that they feel important.
Yep.
Even if they used to be important, and then they've just slipped. No, it's...
They're always looking for their time.
Yeah, when does my time come? When do I get to do something? When they've already had their time.
And it's
that happens a lot. Yeah, that's still their time.
They just don't want to see that there's been a shift in priorities, but you know, it's like, no, they think that it's not about them ever.
Yes.
And, both.
That's a big one too.
Things. And I'm here to tell you that that's not healthy. Healthy relationships are not built on guilt or feeling like you owe someone. They're built out of joy and love and respect. And if you want to do something kind for them, you do it because you want to, not because you feel like you owe them forever because they change your dirty diapers. Because I'm sorry to say, that's what deciding to be a parent looks like. And it's not the child's fault. Nope. That you decided to bring them into this world. Don't let that get under your skin. That's just not true. We don't owe someone for doing essentially like the bare minimum.
The essentials.
Sign number 5, she doesn't respect boundaries. Now, this could be your limits with how long you're going to talk to them or see them. This could even be, again, going back to them sharing information without your permission. That's definitely a boundary crossing. But it could also be what abusive language you won't tolerate. Like, let's say you told them, you know, if you say this to me, I'm not going to talk to you. They'll continue to do that and continue to try to talk to you that way. And so any limits that you put on the relationship, they're not going.
Just like your last boundary with your mother. It was the line drawn at, you better take me to see The Lion King. And if you don't...
Yeah, I mean, like, on the surface that seems really superficial, but it was a really, like, simple thing that I wanted to do with my mother, my grandmother, and at least with Tristan, because we had done the exact same thing, like, what was it, 25 years before. So it was the 25th anniversary. We had all gotten back together, and I was like, I will pay for it myself. I wanted all of us to be there. Yeah. And I was like, you know, fine, I don't even want to be there now. You can just take him.
And wouldn't do it.
Right. And it was like also with the phone. You remember she used to text and drive.
Oh yeah,
And
all the
I
time.
said, I hate that. I don't want you doing it anymore. She's like, okay, well, I'm not going to do it with you in the car, but I'm still going to do it. And then she ended up eventually doing it in the car with me there anyway.
Yeah. Well, I don't care. I mean, that's just what it would be.
It was just like always just laughed off like it was
a joke.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you don't really mean it. Last straws.
To approve of them, they're not going to abide by them, they're not going to respect them. And when you pull back as a result to hold that boundary, they will again try to push past it, or they'll lash out, or they'll shame you for respecting yourself. How dare you do this to your mother? I can't believe that you would say that. You're so disrespectful. You have no idea all the things I've done for you, right? They'll pull out that laundry list. And read off all the things that they think you've done that were not okay and they believe were disrespectful or hurtful to them. And so just know that anybody in our life, not just a narcissistic mother, but anybody in our life that can't respect a boundary. So when we act, remember, boundaries are not about the request we put in. We can say, hey, I don't like it when you talk to me that way. But the boundaries actually, when you do that, if you keep talking to me that way, I'm going to have to leave, or I'm not going to be able to talk to you as often, or I'm not going to see you anymore. And doing that thing, not talking to them, not seeing them anymore, that's the boundary. And if anybody in your life, when you let them know, hey, if you do that, I'm going to do this, and then you do that thing, and they get mad or they continue to push past the boundary over and over again, that's not a healthy relationship. It's built on guilt and manipulation, and it's incredibly toxic. Moving on to sign number 6. They will constantly tell you that you are remembering things wrong, otherwise known as gaslighting. Now, this usually pertains to our memory of ways that they upset us or hurt us or things they did that weren't acceptable. Let's say they overstepped a boundary and we bring it up. Hey, Mom, the reason I'm not talking to you is because you called me an asshole again, and I told you if you were going to cuss at me and talk shittily to me, I wasn't going to be able to talk to you anymore. That's why. And they'll say something like, no, you're remembering it wrong. That's not what happened. You yelled at me first. You called me names. I was only defending myself, right? So they'll flip the script. They'll try to make it seem like they were the ones that were being wounded. They're very, very comfortable being the martyr or the one that's in pain. Oh, woe is me. They're not ever comfortable apologizing, accepting responsibility, and allowing us to express what happened. Then if we grew up in a situation like this, if our mom was like this, it's most common that we'll find ourselves in other relationships with these same types of patterns. This could lead to us being a people pleaser, right? Apologizing all the time for things that we have we didn't have any role in. We're going to say sorry because that's how we were raised. We always just say sorry. It doesn't really matter. Just apologize, just to make it stop, right? And so just know that that's not how relationships have to go. That's very unhealthy and a sign that our mom is a narcissist. Sign number 7 is that she's always competing with you. Now, this could mean that she tries to look younger or better, flirt with your girlfriends or boyfriends, or try to befriend your friends and then shit talk you to them. I know. Or she may even want to ensure that she has a better education, job, or just makes more money than you. She will always want to be higher or feel better than you. And if she doesn't, then she'll try to take you down a notch. They can do this manipulation in order to always feel like they're on top and you're just down below, because that's where they're the most comfortable. And sign number 8, she is always the victim. It doesn't matter what happened or what she did to cause an upset. It will never be her fault. And she will always blame everyone else. And this kind of goes hand in hand with the inability to apologize for anything that she's done.
I know. That's the craziest thing. It's like...
And said, you're always acting like you're always acting like a victim. And I thought she was going to hit me. Her eyes got so wide and she just went deadly silent for a second and set her jaw. And I thought she was going to freaking just reach across the seat and just nail me.
I know.
And then she did that weird thing where she just shut down, didn't say anything else, and acted like nothing was wrong.
No, she did that a lot.
Went to the fireworks the next day and everything else,
And that was one of the last times.
That was that last time.
Yeah. No more.
2019.
She knew it too, I think.
I think so.
I think
she made that decision, but it was like she must have been really smug and snide about it, because we sat and talked in the driveway until like 2 o'clock in the morning.
I know. I remember that.
And then that was it.
Yeah, done.
And it's like, I don't even know how you left your mother. I don't know how and when you stopped talking to her.
No, it just happened. That's it. I'm done.
Was it a decision or did you just stop?
I just stopped. I was tired of it. You know, it was like, she wanted to say a bunch of shit about everybody. Not take responsibility for what she did. She never took responsibility for her drinking.
No, obviously
Ever.
she never did the 12 steps. I mean,
no.
You were 3.
Yes.
3. So that means you went 3 years drinking. You know, and I don't care who you are. There's damage that's done.
There's a lot, yes.
And, yeah, I mean, because it was just like, I didn't think I thought about it. It was just one day I realized that you hadn't talked to her in like 2 years.
Yeah.
And now it's been, because it was longer than my mom.
Yeah.
It was like 2 years before I stopped talking to my mother. It's been like 6 years.
Yeah.
That means he was what, 6?
Yeah. And that was it.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. And she doesn't care. I mean, my dad's told her, yeah, here's their address, write to him. Because that's what we said. If you write a letter to us, we will respond, and we will start communications back. And she hasn't even tried. My dad did, and he's back in our lives.
Yeah, it was just a simple letter, and it was showing him the respect. You know, he used our married name and asked how things were going, showed a genuine interest, said we were doing a good job. You know, he didn't push, he didn't, send a bunch of stuff. It was just a letter.
Yeah.
And then another letter. And we returned that, and, it was like we just kind of went back and forth like that for a while.
And then it opened up to a lot more. I mean, we just got back from Great Wolf Lodge. If you check out Guru Wolf Boy's Wolf Boy Productions page, he's got a lot more on it. I have some on mine, and then Daughter of Auden has some on hers.
Yeah, just shorts. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, we just got back from doing that, and it was with him and my stepmom, and we all had fun.
I know. It's just like, it's crazy as we just phased out and we just went no contact. And a lot of people around that time did.
Yeah.
Between 5 and 6 years ago. Everybody just kind of like had an awakening, I think.
I think so too.
Mental health started kind of like bringing a lot of things to light, and people realized, well, we can't fight this. So we best just kind of break from it.
Yeah.
Save your sanity.
Exactly.
Save your family. Save the bloodline. Repair the mistakes.
Yeah.
She always thinks that she's the one that was hurt and will flip things around, hence like gaslighting. You can see how all of these signs kind of lead to this one, which is really the crux of narcissism, is that they're always the one that's in pain. They're the victim. We should feel so bad for them. How dare we do X, without taking any recognition, any responsibility for their role in what happened. And growing up in that kind of situation can make us think that we're always the one that's at fault, right? Because that's what we were told. And so we will always apologize because we are never going to get an apology from them. And I know this sucks to say, but we can't wait for them to apologize in order to move on. That's giving them too much power. We don't have to wait for an apology from someone else in order to move on. And all these signs can cause us to be anxious, a perfectionist, or struggle with all sorts of other mental health issues. We can even find ourselves dating or having friends that are just like her, which is why it's so incredibly important that we notice these signs and find ways to heal from the damage. So let's jump into a few ways that we can heal. And number 1 is setting healthy boundaries with our mom. Now remember, boundaries aren't about what we're going to ask them to do. It's not the request. It's about what we are going to do. So think about that. Place them. They sometimes have to be communicated. Sometimes they don't. Place those boundaries and uphold them. And even if they text and call over and over, that doesn't mean we have to pick up. That doesn't mean we have to reply. And if it becomes incredibly hurtful and toxic, we can block them for a while or for as long as we need to. It's not on you to fix them. Like one thing my therapist used to tell me when I was having issues in relationships is she was like, you can only clean your side of the street. You cannot go over and clean their side for them. So what are your actions? What are you going to do and not do? And what are you going to communicate so that they know? That's all you can control. So let's stay in that place because, again, that's a place of empowerment. Moving on to the second way we can heal, inner child work. I know I talk about this a lot, but it's so incredibly helpful. When we grew up in this type of situation, we often thought we were always to blame. affect our self-worth and our confidence. We could have thought that we were just an extension of them and we don't even know how to choose for ourselves. When we're given a bunch of options, we might say, I just don't know. And we really don't, because younger us never got to figure that out. Taking the time to either journal back and forth from younger us to adult us, or even just looking at a photo of us from when we were younger. There's that filter on TikTok, the teenage me or whatever, that could help too. But seeing a younger version of ourselves, maybe listening to music from that time, can kind of get us in the zone to remember what it was like for you at that point in your life. We often look back with adult eyes and think, well, I could have just got out, or I could have done this or said that. We often forget how we were at that time. And doing some of that work can help us see what it was really like and offer some of that support and compassion to that younger us that unfortunately didn't get it at the time. Moving on to number 3, we can look for ways that this has affected our life today. Relationship patterns, self-worth, self-talk, all of those things, so that we can work to break those patterns and act in different ways. A lot of the work that we do in therapy is often just trying to identify and acknowledge what we're doing that we don't like, so that then we can choose to do it differently. And yes, it's hard. Trust me, nothing is more difficult than behavioral change, because our knee-jerk reaction is always going to be to do that thing that isn't serving us anymore, because we've been doing it for years. But when we try to learn something new, it's going to be clunky at first. We're going to think, I don't know what I'm doing. This doesn't even feel natural. That's okay. Stick with it. In that time of this is uncomfortable, I think I'm acting weird, I don't really know, check in with yourself, check your facts, talk to your therapist if you need to, and push forward. Keep trying it. Keep working it. And if you go back and do the thing that you used to do, that's okay. We're just learning, right? We're going to try to pull it back over to this new way. And it can be really hard, but the more you try and the more you do it, that muscle will get stronger and it'll get better. And before you know it, that old way will feel weird and the new way will feel comfortable. So just stick with it, okay? And number 4, and this is the hardest, but it's a part of the process, is grieving the relationship that we didn't get. It's okay to be sad during this process and even angry at the parent that you didn't get. Like, how dare you do that to me? How dare you cause me all these issues? We can be mad. Anger is protective, right? We feel really wounded and hurt. How could you not show up for me? How could you do these things to me? Why am I having to deal with all this shit now, right? We can be really mad, and that's okay. But allow yourself to grieve that loss. There can be this idea of what we think a parent's going to be, and then they only give us this, and we're left to grapple.
Yes, as we have said before, sometimes the line has to be drawn to be, you are out of my life, you are gone. And that grieving will allow you to set that relationship aside and just say, listen, I cannot have this to be healthy and to be the person that I need to be. A lot of people will not do this, but this is necessary in a lot of situations.
You just need to sit back and say, okay, well, I didn't have this, and I'm never going to have this, and that really, really sucks. But it did happen for a reason, and it did make me this way, and it did get these good qualities. So it's not ever really a waste. I think it's good to focus on the good that came out of it.
Yes, it truly is.
I can manage things.
Yep.
And I'm discerning.
Yeah.
You know, it's like she taught me a lot about nature and everything, so it's like I focus on all of those things that have been good. But, you know, it's basically, it's like that person is gone.
I know, and it's hard.
Yeah.
But move on, move past.
And then just be the person. Be like, if you're a parent, be the parent that you wish that you had.
Yes, exactly.
It's like, that's like the most therapeutic thing. My problem with a lot of the child-free by choice people is they use that as an excuse. They're like, well, my parents were so horrible to me, and I was raised by, you know, a narcissist, and I don't want that to continue because I might have those traits. I'm like, the fact that you're thinking about it means that you don't.
Exactly, yes.
Know? And it's like, I feel that they're just screwing it all up, because like the most therapeutic thing you can do is to face that fear and raise that child the way that you were not raised.
Yep.
You know,
it's
like,
to be better.
Yeah, don't be like overcompensating for shit, but
no.
You know, like, you know, just really they just try to avoid that, and I think it's probably best that they don't, you know,
exactly.
Themselves into it.
Just try to be better than who you were the day before.
Yeah. And be better than your previous generation.
Exactly.
Fix the mistakes.
Yes, fix the mistakes. Become better, like I said, than the previous generation.
Yeah,
if it's your mother, you know, just say, okay, how would she do it? and try to fix the things that you would have liked to see her be the difference.
Redeem the bloodline.
Yes.
With that, right? And we have to grieve the difference between that. I know that many of my patients have told me they have good friends they grew up with who had these amazing parents, and they would just be so jealous and so mad about it. And I was like, that's really coming from a place of grief that needs to be acknowledged. I wish I had that. That's the thing I wanted. And so give yourself the time to grieve that difference, what we wanted and what we got. And it can take time, but it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to feel all the feelings. And finally, tip number 5, improve your self-talk. We're going to have to pay attention to how we talk to ourselves. And remember, using those bridge statements, we just want to make them not as negative. So if the self-talk phrase is like, Katie, you're always messing up, you're so stupid, then a bridge statement would be something to the effect of, I'm open to the fact that I might not be as stupid as I used to think. Maybe. Not sure, but maybe, right? We got to live in the maybes, the possiblies, and the just slightly not as negative. Because even though it doesn't feel positive, it is better than where we're at. And we're kind of building a bridge into a healthier self-talk, a healthier self-esteem and self-worth. And we're going to have to do this to combat the emotional abuse that we've sustained throughout our lives and the horrible things possibly that our mother told us. Because when we have a narcissistic mom, they'll say all sorts of things to blame, shame, and guilt us into doing what they want. And so we'll have to kind of undo that little by little. But stick with it, because it does get better. And trust me when I say that you're worth it. I hope this video was helpful. Share any other signs you feel like I missed or other helpful tips in the comments down below. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you next time.
We'll do one more.
Bye. I know so many of you have questions that you want answered, or you want to be part of our bigger community. And
today we're going to be looking at the impact of a son being raised by a narcissistic mother. I imagine there'll be two types of people, broadly speaking, looking for a video with a title like this. One will be the sons of narcissistic mothers, wondering what kind of impact and effect they can expect in their lives. And the other will be the partners of sons who suspect that the mother is narcissistic. And the question on everybody's lips will probably be, am I fucked? Or is he fucked? So the quick answer that I can give you that will offer you a little bit of psychological relief before we go any further is the answer is no. You're not completely doomed to a life of singlehood. Your relationship isn't doomed just because your partner may or may not be the son of a highly narcissistic mother. What are the kinds of things that you can expect if you expect that you are the son of a narcissistic mother, or you're the partner of the son of a suspected narcissistic mother? One of the things that you can expect is that the son, having grown up with a highly selfish, very, very rigidly self-focused mother who can't really afford to show that son much love, is that there are going to be intimacy issues. The way that we love ourselves is directly modeled from the way that our parents loved us. So if the mother in her narcissism was very neglectful, the son may very well end up finding himself becoming neglectful of his own needs. If the mother was very demanding of the son, demanding that he would put aside all his own needs for her own, he will find that he has a tendency to put aside his own needs for the needs of other people, not necessarily his partner in a relationship, but somewhere in his life, you'll see a definite tendency towards putting his needs to one side in order to take into that place the needs of other people. Could be from work, could be from family, could be from his children, could be from his partner as well. Naturally, the son of a highly narcissistic mother who's raised in an environment where he wasn't really shown any kind of authentic love from his mother is going to be distrustful of intimacy. He's going to find intimacy difficult and challenging. If you are the son of a narcissistic mother, I suggest you find a good relationship therapist or counselor in your area and go together and talk these issues through with a qualified therapist or counselor who specializes in this particular issue. A child, any child of any gender raised in an environment with a highly narcissistic mother is going to find it hard for them to assert themselves. They're going to find it very hard to say no, and they're going to find it very difficult to assert their own boundaries. Now, asserting yourself saying no and asserting your own boundaries don't sound particularly romantic and don't sound like they're essential components for a healthy long-term relationship, but I assure you they are. You must learn to say no to the people closest to you, your most intimate relationships. Everybody has to learn to maintain and at times reassert their boundaries with the people that they're closest to, especially if you're living with that person, and you need to know what your values are. So if you are the son of a narcissistic mother, you suspect you are, or you're the partner of the son of a narcissistic mother, these are the kinds of things that need to be done. Otherwise, if you're the partner of somebody like this, you will start to experience your partner, the son of a narcissistic mother, as being a little bit codependent and something of a pushover. This can have really terrible effects in a long-term relationship on your attraction to your partner, your respect for your partner, and your desire to create more intimacy with them, and your ability to feel safe within that relationship. If you know that your partner is very easily manipulatable and very easy to be bullied, it's not going to be easy for you to then offer them that level of trust, that level of vulnerability, that level of love in order to generate the intimacy that you're looking for, the authentic intimacy, non-performative, authentic intimacy that makes long-term relationships palatable, enjoyable, fulfilling, and possible. It's going to be very difficult to do that if your partner can't say no. To the sons of narcissistic mothers, you must learn to say no. If you're in a relationship and you've noticed a pattern of ending up in abusive relationships, particularly with women in your life, you should consider the possibility that you've internalized a negative or bullying unconscious image of women in general, and that you can now only find quote unquote fulfillment, of course it isn't real fulfillment, in being in relationships with women who are effectively abusive, just like your mother was, who don't respect your boundaries, who don't permit you to say no, who don't permit you to have your own values, who don't permit you to be your own person. When we're growing, as we're growing up in the world, we're forming our ways of operating in the world. Our parents are really our first interactions with adults that we ever have, and so that imprinting goes very, very deep into us. If your imprinting says, put aside your needs for mine, never say no to me, you're not allowed any of your own boundaries, you will carry that forward into adulthood. You could find yourself in lots of abusive relationships with women, or possibly when you are with a woman in a good relationship, you'll find yourself overgiving. You'll find yourself never saying no, and you'll find yourself potentially in a situation where you resent your partner because you've agreed to things that you don't actually really want to agree to. You should seriously consider the concept of codependency and overcoming it. I've written a book about that, so that's a man's perspective on being a codependent, having been raised in a highly narcissistic environment. It's a book that is told in an anecdotal style. It's not a psychology book as such. It's not full of jargon. It's just full of the stories from my life and how I overcame codependency. That book is called A Cult of One. If you're interested in learning how to do this as a man, from a man's point of view, you might want to get a hold of that book. What else can you expect? Well, you can expect that over time it's going to get harder and harder during a relationship as you move through that timeline together and the intimacy increases for you to get closer to each other without fusing and merging. If you're the partner of a son, whether it's a heterosexual or a gay relationship, I can't see why it would make any difference. But if you're the partner of a son of a narcissistic mother, you will find frustratingly that it's very hard for your partner, the son, to distinguish between love, intimacy, connection, and fusing and merging. So that poor guy raised in that environment as a child, as he was, thinks that true love is obedience. He thinks that true intimacy is subservience. He thinks that to demonstrate intimacy and how much he loves you, he should sacrifice himself upon the altar of your...
Okay, yes, I will definitely be checking out that book when we have the time next, and I will do a short or another video on that sometime down the road after I read it and let you guys know what I, as a man, with that same type of issues thought of it.
Or desires. And what you'll find is the sensation, the unpleasant sensation, that you're dating, or sorry, not you're dating, you're in a relationship with a kind of a chameleon who's going to do, say, and be whatever they think is the best match for you. Now, there's certain elements of the relationship that may seem appealing to you. I assure you that the costs will outweigh any meager benefits in the long run. And you really, both of you, have to be looking very seriously at getting into to see a relationship counselor, a relationship therapist. And the son of the narcissistic mother, I'm very hopeful that, I think the prognosis is good, that you can resolve these issues, but you really must work with a therapist to overcome this highly pronounced tendency and desire to create peace at home, because it's a reflection of what you knew in childhood, through fawning, through supplicating, through submitting, through being subservient, when that's really not what your partner wants or needs. Well, sometimes your partner may want that, and they may enjoy elements.
That is a woman's job, as far as it comes to the home, is to make the peace, so that the man can come home to a nice, stable.
Yeah, because you're out there dealing with shit every day, dealing with people every day, dealing with hard work and pain and elements and all of these things. So you're supposed to come home to a peaceful environment. But I remember, that's how we were as well. You were really subservient. You were like, I would test you to see how much I could make you do, and you would jump. It was like I would say jump, you would say how high, and it's
I would.
It's different now. It's like you still serve, and we serve each other, but you don't do it like you used to do it to try to make it so I didn't get mad, or try to jump on it so that I could so you could just make me happy. I guess it was make me happy, and it was not your job.
No.
It's like you can add to the joy, but you can't make somebody happy just by trying to spring in and do this and do that and
yes, exactly.
take care of the household and it's not. That's not the way it's supposed to be.
So that, but it is not what they need in the long term. They may lose attraction for you. They may simply get bored. They may end up feeling smothered because you don't realize it, but your mother's mode of teaching you love was to fuse. So the technical terminology that we need to touch on before we start wrapping the video up would be enmeshment. All narcissistic parents enmesh with their children of either gender. The enmeshment between a mother and a son, according to some of the research I looked at, can be worse than it would be for a daughter. So you have enmeshment, which means you are literally enmeshed. You've become one. They have fused and merged with you. Why would it be worse with a son than with a daughter? Because of another rather unpleasant concept and side effect. It's called emotional incest. So the narcissistic mother to a son will start to treat him as though he were a partner. And she's more likely to do that with a son than she would be to do with a daughter. Even as she treats you like a partner and invites you in to be more intimate in really inappropriate ways. And it's not necessarily anything sexual. It could be sexual. There is a correlation between actual incest and child abuse and cluster B personality disorders, of course, because they're often comorbid with psychopathy, for example. But that's not what I'm talking about. We're saying emotional incest. So so you think of what sexual incest is. It's an inappropriate sexualized relationship between family members. The emotional incest is an inappropriate emotionalized relationship between the family members, where you're not supposed to be directing that type of communication or that level of emotion or intimacy at your own children. It's inappropriate, boundary breaking, and really, really damages them. So the mother will have treated the little boy as though he were a second husband. The mother will have treated the little boy at times like a girlfriend that she can gossip to, perhaps even about his father. So the son of a narcissistic mother will end up with a very skewed...
Yes, who went through several different people. I mean, we're talking a new person at least once a year, if not more.
Right, and you know, like, I remember her saying that, you know, I mean, she blamed it on you, but I know that it was her. She, you know, sleeping in the same bed as her until you're like 12 years old.
Yes.
And it's like, you know, we share the same room and we'll lounge together and stuff, but, you know, it's like we have boundaries.
Yeah, we have boundaries. We have our own separate beds.
Yeah.
And yeah.
You know, and it's like,
it's wrong.
And I mean, she used to, like, you know, hold you just a little bit too long.
Yeah.
You know, but it was.
And I've seen that.
Mostly for show.
Her own, well, in her own comfort.
Comfort, yeah. And it was like, usually if there's people around, for sure, she wanted to look like she was a super doting mother and all this. But yeah, I mean, why did she take you to the AA meetings and stuff? And
yeah.
You know, why did she introduce you to all those people and everything?
Exactly.
It was like you were just like, you know, stepping into that masculine role, but she kept you totally feminized. You know,
yeah.
It was like, God.
It's bad.
Psychological terror.
I don't think they realize just how bad that they did.
No.
And what damage it does to kids.
Well, I suppose that's what the narcissistic thing comes from, you know. So
yeah.
They won't ever know. It's all about them, and even still, I'm sure she's sitting up there wondering why.
Yeah.
You're not in her life. You know, oh my God, why was this done to me?
Exactly. They'll never step up and take accountability. There's not very many that have. I mean, it's possible.
Right.
But there's not very many that have.
Usually you have to have like a pretty good come to Jesus moment.
Yeah. And with people that narcissistic, it just doesn't happen that often.
What they say, Jesus can't save those hoes. Why are you trying?
Yeah, if Jesus can't save those hoes, then why are you trying?
Skewed vision of what love is, a very skewed vision of what relationships are, a skewed vision of women, but then a very skewed vision of men. So I will finish with this, where we covered a few technical terms: enmeshment, emotional incest. These are things you need to understand. Codependency, that's an issue you should probably have a little look at as well. Boundaries, if you're not familiar with it, you should have a look at what healthy psychological boundaries are. But there's a concept from Jung, J-U-N-G. The Swiss psychoanalyst, Carl Jung, he called it anima possession. Anima possession. So what his suggestion was that in women there could be animus possession, where the woman would become possessed in a sort of a very negatively aspected archetype of a man. She'd become very bullying and bossy and dictatorial. In anima possession, the idea was that there was a very highly negative archetype of a woman that would then possess the man. So instead of being bullying and dictatorial and emotionally violent, in this manifestation, he would become very critical. He would complain a lot. He would be very passive and overly submissive. So you'd end up with this really awful blend that cannot function for a long-term relationship. And if it staggers along and people are stoically just remaining in it, you'll see the light go out behind their eyes.
Yeah.
If you suspect there is anima possession there, if you suspect that you're really struggling to assert yourself, you're really struggling to assert your boundaries, you're very, very negative, you're complaining a lot, you're way too passive, you're not sitting in the driving seat of your life, then what you've lost is the noble aspect of the masculine and the noble aspect of the feminine have disappeared because of disavowal. But that's a subject for another day. We'll get into that a different day. In essence, without using any kind of technical language, this boy, this man who is now a boy trapped inside of a man's body, probably won't know how to be a man and probably is frightened of being a man. Because as much as his mother showed him extra attention and special favors and more intimacy by effectively and probably parentifying him through the emotional incest enmeshment relationship, she will have also castigated and punished him for the negative aspects that she saw in his father. So her actual lover, the person that she actually physically had sex with to produce the child, she's now going to take those frustrations.
Very much so, yes.
Like you spend a good deal of time alone and everything.
Yeah, I learned how to cook and everything myself.
Right. So she didn't really teach you things.
No.
It was just like again, like an extension or an accessory, something
Yeah.
that she could basically show off or use when she needed to when she needed it, you know.
Yeah, very much so. That is very true.
Oh
Out with him, the adult actual father on this little manifestation of the father, because he's a soft target, and it becomes this easy straw man, strashilo, voodoo doll that she can beat up in the absence of when the father's not around. So a lot of people in this field who talk about it, they're very pessimistic as regards the outcome of these kinds of relationships. So as I've just described it, I'm sure you can hear how much damage would have been done there and how difficult it would make long-term, healthy, sane, boundaried adult relationships to be. But if the work is done and you're patient, you're diligent, you're honest, and you're prepared to tell the truth about who you are and how you really feel, and to fight for your own individuation, which means parenting yourself as an adult, then I believe that you can have a good relationship, and you can learn to be a man, and you can learn to be a man inside of a healthy, safe, boundaried adult relationship as well. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and for your attention, and I look forward to speaking to you again very soon. Thank you. Okay, folks, the new course, Unplug from the Matrix.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was 2 more. We still got a few more, but that's all that I'm doing for today. I'll continue this one in the next couple of days. Probably not tomorrow, but the next day after I'll try for Wednesday then. So, thank you very much. Namaste. Hope everybody has a great evening, and I'll try to get you some shorts out tomorrow. Please comment. Let me know what you guys want to see. If there's something else, let me know. Comment and let me know your experiences too. Thank you. Have a great night.